Welcome to the trouble with pentagons developing off the grid. I'm Spitz. I'll have this information up at the end as well, but I figured I'd put it up there. If you guys want to approach me, feel free. You can contact me. You should do that too. So let's get started. About a year ago, actually a little more than a year ago, 1st of August, I joined a new company, small little consulting company called Intrepid. Well, we're located in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I should rephrase, we were a small company, then we were inhaled by Accenture, so where we started off being 150 people, we're now part of a 400 and some odd thousand person company. I have to work on this a little. So we do mobile development, and when I came on board as the principal software engineer for iOS, we got this nice big problem. Nice big project. I think we had as many as 20 different developers on it, developers, and PMs, and that kind of stuff. And I got really excited. First project, all right, we're diving right in. And the designers, I saw this in one of their stacks of things they wanted to do, and I looked at it. It's really cool. Okay, triangles. I can do triangles. So I took this home over the weekend, and I designed basically this view with triangles that allow you to change each triangle's color. It's very exciting. And I came in Monday, and I showed the designers. I went, I have done your triangle background. It is awesome. You like it? And they gave me one of these looks. And if you're a parent, you know this look when your child comes to you and goes, look, I did this spaghetti art for you. You go, wow, that's fantastic. I got that look from them. I'm like, well, you know, the customer, they decided they want to do a 6-axis visualization. So we're not doing triangles anymore. We're doing hexagons. And I went, hexagons? Regular hexagons, that's great. Go together nicely. It's all really great. Okay. I said, you know what? I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait to see what they really design out because they keep coming up with new stuff. And I'll wait. So good thing I did because a week later they come back and go, well, we can't figure out 5 axes. I'm sorry, we can't figure out 6, so we're going to do 5. I looked at them and they said, no, 5 is good. We're going to do pentagons. I looked at the pentagons and I'm like, crap. Okay, so we're going to take a little detour. If you're familiar with geometry, turns out that beautiful shapes like triangles, squares, hexagons, cheating a little bit with circles, those tile together really nice. Get all kinds of fun design, but at the end of the day, they tile together really nicely, and it makes sense. It's easy to do. You go, yes, okay, hexagons. Problem with pentagons? They don't tile. As hard as you try to push them together, regular pentagons don't tile together. Couldn't force it to happen. So I went back to the designers. I said, no, come on, you guys can come up with 6. Come on, 6 axes, we have a hexagon. It'll be great. You'll love it. And they went, nope. We're going 5 pentagons. But don't worry. We figured out that if you squish the pentagon a little bit, you can create this kind of a pattern. And if you put enough of them together, you get this wonderful tiling effect. And I went, oh my goodness, okay, I'm definitely struggling here. This, I was trying to get any kind of handhold on how to create this design, how to replicate this on the computer. Because the designers went, no, it's a beautiful design. I went, look, I have no math for this whatsoever. Give me something. So I should, again, detour for a second here. I like our designers. They're a great bunch of folks. They're very nice. They have very creative ideas. And somehow manage to look more and more attractive every day, where I seem to lose my hair more and more every day. I'm not sure how that works. It seems to be something with designers. So, I think that on design, there is a spectrum. And at one end of this design spectrum, you have your Apple Human Interface guidelines. This is the simple stuff. This is the stuff that you can take interface builder, and chances are, you can give it to your junior developer to build and not worry about them screwing up. Simple designs, most designers kind of shy away from that end of the spectrum, unfortunately. At the other end of the spectrum is this Adobe After Effects. This is all the interactive stuff, the ripple effects, the special design buttons and knobs that actually turn. This is the stuff that your senior developer, you have to put a good senior developer on it, and they're going to spend some substantial amount of time. But it's a good juicy problem. This is something that, usually there's a hint of a cocoa pod that maybe addresses it, but if you tune it right, there's also, you're also getting lots of assets for a new designer for this kind of work. The problem is, every once in a while, someone lets the designers off their chain, and they go crazy. And they create these designs, and you look at it, you're like, I don't know. I really don't know. They forget that you actually have, a programmer actually has to implement this, and they go completely wild. Now the thing about that is that those are the really neat designs. Those are, if you will, the square pegs in the round holes, the crazy design. And this Pentagon one definitely falls into that category. I just, looking at it, I was like, so, to further confirm that, it's been a year since we started in on this. This article came out in July, talking about the fact that the Pentagon, tiling Pentagons, is the last that has just recently been solved as part of a larger problem that has been around for something like 99 years. So that just confirmed for me that our designers went way off the deep end with this design and nearly killed me. So, I've got 3 takeaways for this one. The first one here, don't panic, which is what I was starting to do when I saw that design. But the thing is, these designs, as I said, these are really equals. These are the ones that challenge your engineering part of computer engineering. These are the ones that when you're these are the ones that when you look back at them, you'll be going, oh my God, that was so cool. And this is the ones that people will look at and also go, wow, you did that. That's amazing. These are also the ones that usually happen to win Apple Design Awards because they're just that unique. So don't panic. Don't go to no. I'm a very strong believer in the fact that nothing is impossible. It just might take a lot of time or a lot of resources or a lot of developers. So I went back to the designers and I said, well, did you guys just pull this out of thin air or did you have something? They said, no, we found this on the internet. It's something called cairo pentagonal tiling. I went, okay, that is cairo pentagonal tiling. And it turns out that it's this design here. Apparently it's very popular in Egypt. And I suspect that most of the people or people who actually came up with the original design are now somewhere either in a pyramid or buried under it. And after having experience trying to put it together, I'm actually quite happy for that. So I took this cairo pentagonal design and I went to the web, went searching, and I found that in fact there is a Wikipedia page, which I was really relieved because it suddenly gave me numbers, real math. So this is the real math around drawing these squished pentagons. Suddenly I had rounding. Now I could actually start drawing these guys. So I used the UI Bezier path to draw them, and now I have something I could draw on the screen. I could put it up all over the place. And with a little hand brain, I can line them up by hand to make that tiling pattern. A little detour here. I use Bezier paths because when I calculate it out, there's about the possibility of as many as 30,000 of these on one screen on the iPhone 7 Plus. So doing UI views is really great. You can do thousands of them. But when you start reaching into the tens and 30,000 kind of range, this is a much better way to do it. So, my second takeaway is cheat. Now, my coworker and I actually had this kind of debate if cheat is the right word. Yes, estimate, focus. At the end of the day, when you're getting these kind of problems, break it down to the most key element. Most designers have in their design something that is really important that you get, that precise, and it looks exactly right. And then there's a lot of stuff that they got hand-waving about. And it's okay if it's off a couple pixels here and there. So for me, it meant going back and doing more research, which I then became knowledgeable about topology. It turns out, trying to break down this problem and focus on what I could actually implement, that this pattern here in red is topologically equivalent to this repeating pattern here for the pentagons. You can actually put them one on top of the other. And then if you squint a little bit, you put these nice little thin lines, you suddenly notice that this all starts to look like the Cartesian coordinate system, which was for me the light bulb moment about how to put these together. Because suddenly you look at it and go, wait, there's the pattern. And if I put a nice square around it, well that would be my neighborhood. And if I broke that up into smaller squares, well now we have these quadrants, right? One more iteration and now you can see the pattern in the upper left-hand corner is the same as the pattern in the lower right-hand corner. The pattern in the upper right-hand, the same as the one in the lower left-hand, which looks an awful lot like an XOR or an XNOR, which makes it possible for me to suddenly calculate where all these pentagons go based on points. This is the neighborhood quadrant. Lets us calculate left and right using XOR. Suddenly you're able to draw all this stuff, all these pentagons on the screen. So that was very exciting because we're suddenly able to actually do the design that they want to have on the screen. Third takeaway, more isn't always better. One of the things that we looked at this and we said, oh my goodness, this breaks down so nicely for potentially using a GPU. So this was the kind of further iteration of the design. And we got this nice kind of, they decided to split up the view into this kind of pie chart. They wanted different pentagons in different colors. So now I need to calculate not only where each one of these pentagons is, but also to figure out which quadrant it fit into. So now distance from the center as well as an angle. So that sounds really nicely fitting into something you could do with a GPU. And as we know, our A10X, which is the latest generation, has a great core for the CPU. And that's the core that can do basically anything. We use the Beatles as their kind of model. And then the GPU, which has these cores that they all function in unison, they all can crank through math nice and quick, especially if it's the same math over and over. This happens to be the 2008 drummers of the Beijing Olympics. So, figured, okay, I get to use metal. This is awesome. Start breaking this down and figure out how to do this in metal. So, metal is two pieces. There's the Swift code you write to initiate, and then there's the shader code that actually does the computational work. Now, one of the challenges is that the documentation for metal computation isn't that great. So I'm going to share with you guys the code that I used. We'll take a little walk through it. Let's see. All right, that'll be better. So we start with, you basically just need to get a device. The metal create system default device gets you a device. If you have metal available to you, that's the call to make. The next thing you need is a command queue. Basically, this is the ability to send instructions to your metal and your GPU to do work for you. The third line here is to get the default library. This is the shader that you've written. That gets you the library, and then get the specific function that you've created. So that's this piece here. So if you can get all these pieces, then we dive in. The next part here is to establish a pipeline, which will be sending commands to your function. Create a command buffer to hold your commands. And then the command encoder, which allows you basically to load up all the different steps into the command you're going to execute. So in my case, we're passing in a center, where's the center of the screen, as well as the kind of size, the max size that you want to work with. So that these two pieces, I'm going to use the command encoder basically to set those pieces and where they're going to be in the buffer. Now, what you need to do, what I ended up doing was adjusting the size, the width and the height, so that it fit properly within the number of threads that we created, thread groups and so forth, which is the next step here, which is adjusting the size and width basically to fit the number of pieces we have. We also had to create a buffer large enough to receive all the shader information back, all the computation we did. And then this here is setting up the number of threads per thread group, the number of thread groups per grid. Basically, it's how many workers will you have working on your problem through the GPU. So that's this piece here. And then basically the end encoding takes all that information, bundles it all up, and then we basically commit. So we say, here GPU, go work on this. And then in this case, I decided to wait until it's completed. This last piece here is about getting the data back out. Once this is all done, you basically get it back out of the system. So you get your out buffer, which we created earlier, get the contents, and transfer it over. I also used a flat map here to actually eliminate those. There's a potential in the calculations that you have collisions of pentagons. You notice we used rectangles to represent the pentagons. So we basically, when we hit those points that are in the center of the pentagon, we want to get rid of them. So this is what the metal code looks like. Again, not great. You'll be able to see this, I think, on the video much better. So the first part of it is to create a structured actionable pentagon data. Essentially Swift, but you're using slightly different data types. So we can create a data point here which has the x and y, the direction the pentagon is pointing in, an angle and distance, which was what we were after to using this, as well as the direction information here. The signature for the pentagon calculator function is actually, it's interesting. The two first pieces may recognize from the code we just looked at. We're passing in the center. Where is the center for this? And the size of our max drawing. But these last three pieces here are actually giving us information about where in the grid of GPU cores we are operating at. So I'm using that instead of passing in for each pentagon corner. I'm actually using the position of the core to figure out what its location is. So that saves me from passing in that data. Okay. This next large chunk here, this is essentially the same code that we saw before. I said, yeah, I saw how to place these guys on the screen. And what you're seeing at the top there is basically calculating where in the output buffer the data is going to go. Then figuring out which quadrant and neighborhood and so forth our pentagon is in. Also calculating whether we've collided because we were in the center rectangle versus one of its corners. And figuring out, okay, what is the distance then? Figuring out the collision flag. This last chunk here is about basically if we're not colliding, take that information, load it up into one of our data points, calculate out distance as well as angle, and load that up into the outgoing buffer. So, effectively we have this. We take our CPU, pass all this information as well as the shader to the GPU. GPU uses its location for each one of these cores, does our math, loads up the result into an output buffer, passes all of that back to the CPU, which then chews on the information and passes it all back as an image. This is rather expensive. And what I discovered, and this is why I say more isn't always better, is that doing all this work the overhead ended up being more expensive than the benefits of having it running on the GPU. So that, plus the fact that there was only one person who knew how to do metal, me, we decided to leave all of the work on the CPU. It actually performs remarkably well, and this is the end result of this work. Now, what's happening here is that it's rendering, and it'll keep shrinking down the size of those rectangles to then be able to draw more and more of them on the screen, and actually get to a point where they almost become just dots. But it was a really neat problem. There are definitely a good number of aha moments there. The fact that those rectangles give you that grounding was a key for me. That was really a light bulb moment that made drawing impossible, because I was able to ignore the fact that the pentagons reach in to other, they cross into the other pentagons, or cross into the pentagon space. It's kind of a challenging problem, but you can see this is actually flying pretty fast. This is past the point of 30,000 pentagons on the screen all at once. This is all using ZA paths and so forth. Okay, so, wow, that went a lot faster than I expected. So the takeaways, don't panic. That's an important one. I can't stress that enough. These are the meaty, chunky problems that, as engineers, we should really appreciate. I think it separates the engineer from the developer. Anybody can write code. We have apprentices in our program. We give them code, they write it, it's great. But these kind of problems are the ones that get you that Apple Design Award. These are the ones that challenge you and push you to be better. And I'm sounding like the Apple commercial, but it's really true. This is the kind of stuff that pushes you, and we shouldn't be afraid of it. Second is G. Like I said, it's not the greatest word, but at the end of the day, focus on what is the critical part of the design. What is that piece that you really need to get? Start reaching for those chewable pieces. Break it apart if you need to. Is there a better way of doing it? Is there some other way that maybe you don't have to render everything all at once? Maybe you can break it up into smaller pieces. So cheap. And the third is, more isn't always better. Yes, doing this on the GPU would have been cool, and I definitely wanted my rope metal code. But at the end, the overhead killed it. So you have to be highly aware of what are the trade-offs. And so, yes, there are 12 cores for GPU work. There's 6 cores, it looks like 3 high-performance, 3 regular performance CPU cores. They do remarkably well. So take a kind of careful look at what you're doing. Does it probably break apart nicely to distribute? And also be aware of the overhead. And with that, so this is unfortunately, this is terrible. So what I was trying to show here, this is what the application more closely resembles. It's gone through a few more iterations, but what's going on is that there's actually 3 layers of pentagons being drawn here. There's a back layer which fills the entire screen with pentagons. There's the back layer to the second back layer, which is the circle of pentagons. And then there's a third layer, which is the frontmost, that's actually drawing the specific kind of axes-related pentagons. All of these are getting rendered using the same algorithm, and that's why I said their potential is for more than 30,000, because each one of these layers is potentially 10,000 pentagons.
These are actually being done with individual alphas per layer per pentagon. And a lot of computation is running here. The amazing thing is that this runs remarkably smoothly on an iOS device, even as small as an iPhone SE. That was one of our targets, and that's in part why we use Bezier curves, or panel, I should say, is that we probably have done it with UI views, but it would have been a lot of UI views, and there's a lot of overhead with that. We talked about doing it in metal, all in metal, having this rendering done in metal as well. I don't have enough hair for the hair cooling that would have happened just trying to move through metal and learn it. So, yeah. So there you have it. I'm very proud of this.
Let's see.
The app?
I'm sorry?
What is the name of the app?
So this hasn't been released.
Okay.
And
Yes, it hasn't, let's stay with it. It hasn't been released yet.
we're still developing this. Our customer is still wanting more magic.
So, but I'm no longer on it, so it's not up to me anymore. Yes, sir. Oops. The use case?
Yeah, so basically they come up.
Let's go back one.
They come up basically with these axes, each one of these, of the pie chart here. They had a meaning to each one of them. And they had come up with 5. Unfortunately, they couldn't come up with a 6th one. So they decided 5 was enough. But it's interesting, the original artwork actually had, from our customer side, actually had 6 axes. They were all set for hexagons, which I was really excited about. But they decided that because they had 5 axes, they would focus in on this concept of the pentagon. And then our designers pushed that idea forward. They kind of rolled it forward and said, well, if we're going to do, pentagons, then it should be the background, and it should be this kind of layout. They had early on gotten to this idea that the number of axes should be reflected in the shape that was the backing shape. So I wish they had it. I wish we could have come up with a 6 axes for it, because I think it would have made my life that much easier. But the flip side is, like I said, this is one of those that when we kind of look at our portfolio of work, this is one of the things that really stands out and makes me proud to have basically cracked open this problem. And between topology and all this other pieces, be able to go, yes, there it is. And I'm hopeful that at some point we'll actually get this out the door if the customer stops adding more feature, and then we can actually maybe put it in for an Apple design board. Because this is a one stage of it, but it looks a lot better, even more better now, because there's a lot of other things going on. So. Any other questions? Yes, sir. So the goal was to achieve at least 24 frames per second. And I believe that we've managed that. Now the good thing is that this stuff isn't continuously animating, so we don't have to worry about. But the
Other animation here,
I believe we're going at 24 frames per second as a minimum. Like I said, though, this isn't continuously animating. Right? Once we get your score at each one of these axes, we draw it once, and then when we get more stuff, it grows. But any other questions? Okay, cool. Good. Well, like I said, my name is Ayal Spitz. I am here for the whole conference. So if you have more questions, please feel free. It's my Twitter and email. Please feel free to contact me that way too. Thank you.